So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make one of these really cute, really simple Christmas tree hanging decorations. You can fill this with these nice laundry beads. You could fill them with some lavender. You could just go straight forward toy stuffing. If you haven't got any toy stuffing, you could use some old ripped up tights or scraps and things. It's a great scrap buster. You just need a few bits of scrap ribbon and a few bits of scrap fabric, and that's really all you need to make them. What comes in handy is obviously rotary cutter or scissors, a glue stick if you've got one, and a heat erasable pen. You'll also need some pins. So let's get on and we'll make one of these lovely Christmas tree hanging decorations. So the first thing you'll need to do is you'll need to make your template. It's just a triangle and there are no rules. My triangle is 4 inches along the bottom and 5 inches up to the point. So what you could do is you could just draw yourself a 4 by 5 rectangle and then find the point in the middle to make your triangle template. I've done mine on cards because it just makes it easier to draw around it. But as I said, it's your tree. I have actually experimented doing some slightly, this is a little smaller one, that's a larger one, this one is exactly this size, 4 by 5 inches. So have a little experiment, get yourself a template. Then you need to get yourself a piece of scrap fabric that is twice as big as your template, because you're going to fold it in half. Or you could, if you haven't got a big enough piece of scrap, you could use 2 and just pin them together. And then you need to make sure you've got at least 1/4 inch all the way round your template, and then you're going to draw around it like so with your heat erasable pen. To be honest, you could use any type of pen because you're not going to see these lines once you're finished. Nothing that's going to bleed through the fabric, but excellent. I can see those lines. And then just mark at the bottom about a 2.5 inch gap at the bottom. And then what you'll need to do is you'll need to get some pins, and you'll need to pin where you've marked your lines through both pieces of fabric. So pin it so it's all secure, because you don't want this to move when you're sewing. And then the next thing you want to do is put a pin in where the point at the top of your tree will be. So just pop a pin in like that. And then you need to decide what ribbon you're going to put in. Now I've got this lovely gingham, red gingham, but you can use any. Don't go any thicker than this kind of style. If you've got thicker ribbon, you can use that for the bottom, but for the top, I would go, this would probably be my thickest. I think it's about 1/4 inch. This one's slightly thinner. If you haven't got ribbon, you could use twine, string. What else could you use? Yeah, twine, string, ribbon, elastic at a push, if you've got some thin elastic. And then what you want to do is you'll want to open up your fabric, and then you want to place your ribbon so it's right in the middle. So use your pin to help you and pin it, and make sure you've got a little bit of your ribbon sticking out at the top, and then pin that in place. And then opening up this area, make sure that your ribbon is tucked right into the middle, and pin it securely because you're going to sew around here and you don't want to sew your ribbon. So your ribbon should be, if you can feel it with your finger, your ribbon should be right down the middle here. And then sew all the way round, leaving this gap. Okay, I'll meet you at the sewing machine and we'll do that. So remember to back stitch at the beginning, leaving your gap, and then pivot at each corner and just follow the line. Pivot when you get to the top of your Christmas tree and just feel with your fingers for the ribbon to make sure that you don't catch it. You can have a quick peep and make sure it's all pushed out of the way, and then carry on following the lines, pivot at the corner and back stitch at the end. Okay, so that's all sewn up nicely, and then I'm going to cut around the edge and I'm going to leave myself at least 1/2 inch at the bottom of my tree, and then around the edge about 1/4 inch, maybe a bit less. If you've got pinking shears, you could use pinking shears for this bit. Now, the reason that we're leaving a bigger gap at the bottom is because we're going to close through. I'm just going to take these corners off. We're going to close through the, I'm giving you the option to close through this either on the machine or to hand sew. So leaving this bigger gap makes it much easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold it back, give it a little press with our fingers. Obviously you could take it over to the ironing board if you wanted to. There we go. And then open up and you should be able to find the ribbon. If you can't, give it a little wiggle. And then, oh, there it is. There's the end of my ribbon. And then just use that to help pull it through, but don't pull it too tight. You don't want to pull it off. It should be quite secure. And then poke out all your corners, poke in all of your seams, and you should have a Christmas tree shape kind of emerging. Now, as you can see, I probably need to get myself a pokey tool and just poke out those Christmas tree corners. There. Oh, that one's... Why is it when you do this, one corner always comes out nicer than the other, or is that just me? There we go. Okay, so now it's decision time. What are you going to stuff it with? You can stuff it just with toy stuffing. You can stuff it with scraps. You could pop some laundry beads in, or you could put some lovely, if you've got some lavender buds, you could put that in and make it smell nice. If you're doing this for Christmas, if you're selling them at craft fairs, you might want to pop a bit of essential oils on, maybe like I don't know, like a spiced orange or a cinnamon or something that smells of Christmas. Chocolate for me. So yeah, so whatever you want to put in it, you can. I'm just going to stuff it with toy filling for now. Now, again, make sure when you're stuffing anything, make sure that you stuff your points well first, and then everything else kind of comes into play and sorts itself out. If you do the points well, everything else kind of works. And you want to leave yourself a small gap with no filling in by the entrance where your gap is, because that's where you're going to pop your stalk of your Christmas tree, I suppose. The stalk or the branch, the bark, the trunk, that's the word I'm looking for, the trunk. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to pop the ribbon in for the trunk of the tree, just like I've done here. So this is where, so if you've got thicker ribbon, this is the time to use it. Or if I've got these little bits of kind of funky Christmas ribbon, but obviously you could use whatever you like. I think this is quite nice, and you'll want to, I find that the thicker the ribbon goes, the shorter the trunk, whereas the thinner the ribbon is, it actually looks nice if the trunk's a little bit longer. But again, there's no rules, but if you like a rule, I'd say that's about 3 inches, so it's 1.5 inches folded over. And then I've just trimmed off those edges. And then grab yourself a little bit of fabric glue, or any type of glue, and just glue the ends of the ribbon. And that's just to ensure that it doesn't move around when you're sewing it in. And then the same with here, I'm just going to pop a little bit of fabric glue on the opening, and this should be really easy because you've made a nice big seam, so you should have plenty of space to put your glue in there. Okay, and then pop that inside, and you might want to pop, oh, I haven't put that in very straight, have I? Let's put that in a bit straighter. You can always line it up on your board if you want it to be nice and straight. And then pop it over to your sewing machine. Pop it over to your sewing machine and sew it straight along like this. And you can see what I've done here on this one. I've just sewn it as close as I can. And what you do is you just push out the stuffing, sew as close as you can, and sew along there. Now, if that frightens you, if you think, oh, Sam, no, I can't do that on my sewing machine, things wobble around too much, then just hand sew it. You can just hand sew it together using a ladder stitch or another invisible stitch. So it's up to you. But there you have it. Christmas tree hanging decoration. Simple as. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Have a lovely day.